Stuart Robert there from the opposition. For some reaction to the strategy, I'm joined from Canberra by Dr John Blaxland from the Australian National University Strategic and Defence Studies Centre. John Blaxland, thank you for joining us on the program. What shape is the government's credibility in, given the billions of dollars it's been cutting from defence?
Well, that's a good question, Jeremy. It's worth reflecting, firstly, that we've come a long way since the National Security Statement under Kevin Rudd's Prime Ministership in 2008. We now have a National Security Advisor. That position is well established in the bureaucracy. We have a National Security College, which nicely complements the work of the Strategic and Defence Studies Centre at the Australian National University. We have a Cyber Security Operations Centre. We have cyber domains in a number of government departments. So we've actually come a fair way, and what we're seeing in the statement today is, I think, a fairly constructive, sensible, visionary statement of strategy that attempts to harness what's already happening across a range of government departments. You mentioned cyber issues as a highlight, and that certainly is a highlight. But there are so many other issues, and those 8 pillars that are in the strategy speak to that quite well. And my sense is that this is a very considered piece orchestrated by Margot McCarthy and her staff in the National Security Advisor's office. It's pretty good as far as it goes. I guess the concern is in handling the 3 key challenges that she talks about, regional engagement, cyber policies and effective partnerships. We've got a concern about how we're going to fund this. And we just heard from the opposition about the concerns there. We have seen $5 billion cut out of the defence budget. But more than that, we have a Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade that is a hollow force. Essentially, it's been hollowed out over a number of years. It's now a shadow of its former self, and relative to comparable countries like Canada, arguably Australia's strategic cousins there, they have a diplomatic corps that is more than twice the size of ours. So the resources just haven't been applied to the problem to the extent that the statement would indicate. So one could ask the question, where's the money? So I think it's probably reasonable to say, as I say, this is a visionary statement. It does harness the efforts of the various government departments. It does provide direction, and that's a constructive thing. But there is this question that's outstanding, that is, where's the resources? We're seeing the security outlook, the national security outlook, is increasingly turbulent. There are so many dimensions to it that require a concerted effort by a range of government departments, but beyond that, internationally in terms of engagement with regional partners in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, and beyond that with the United States and other partners. There's a lot of work to do. The money's getting cut back. This isn't a magic pudding. We've got to make it work somehow. The statement's great, but we've got to go beyond it.
Is the lack of money alone enough to dismiss the quality of change that could come? Because the Prime Minister certainly seemed to indicate that there were efficiencies to be achieved from greater partnerships between those divisions.
No question. There's always scope for more efficiencies. But the stone has been squeezed pretty well dry, and there's maybe scope for a little bit more, and I think that's probably fair. But we've got to be realistic. We're actually asking for more out of these organisations. We're asking them to take essentially a quantum step up in terms of capability, in terms of providing security for Australia and its people. So that's going to be hard to do when we keep cutting back.
What message does this send to those people who are working in the areas of defence and security?
Well, look, as I say, I think this is a really positive statement, and it's not going to get flack, I don't think, from either sides of politics for as far as it goes. It really does constructively and fairly logically go through the issues that we face in terms of national security. It's an interesting contrast to what we saw in 2008, which tried to cover everything, and in trying to cover everything, didn't say very much at all. This strategy articulates the key issues, and it does it pretty well, I think, and it articulates a plan to address them. It just doesn't talk about how we're going to fund it better.
Right, John Blaxland, we appreciate your insights. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.